welcome once again to Video World after a fortnight of great excitement on BBC Television's political programmes about Mrs Thatcher's cabinet reshuffle. More of that in a moment. Our main feature in this issue is Campion, a full-length drama based on one of Marjorie Allingham's best-selling crime stories. Albert Campion, her enigmatic amateur detective, played by Peter Davison, takes on a challenge of murder, mystery and intrigue in Death of a Ghost. Another inventive hero stars in our documentary from the Horizon series. Millionaire entrepreneur Clive Sinclair is a man of huge successes and huge failures. But his stream of new inventions has often changed our lives. So what is it that makes this fascinating man of many contradictions tick? Turning to sport, we have the fourth Test match from Old Trafford, the one England had to win or draw to have a hope of retaining the Ashes. We'll also see how the Open Golf Championship had one of the closest finishes for years with a three-man playoff to decide the title. And how a record was broken at glorious Goodwood. But we begin with the Prime Minister's end-of-term government reshuffle. And what a drama that caused, with the biggest shock, Sir Geoffrey Howe's removal from the Foreign Office. His replacement, the untried and untested John Major, was not the name on everyone's lips for one of the top 3 jobs in British politics. So Newsnight's Francine Stock set out to discover more about him.
John Major, most enigmatic member of Cabinet, has left the Treasury unnoticed for the last time. Today he was summoned by his Prime Minister. In a few minutes she bestowed upon him one of the highest offices of state. His anonymity is over.
It was wholly unexpected. She invited me to sit down and offered me the job, and I was delighted to accept. It's a very exciting opportunity.
Far from the conventional breeding grounds of Tory ministers, John Major's childhood was spent in Brixton. His father was an actor and circus artist. The family lived in rented accommodation. But his experience led, surprisingly, to his becoming a young Conservative at 16. In 1965, he went to work in the city at Standard Chartered Bank. Soon he was winning his political spurs on Lambeth Borough Council. In 1979, he was to become MP for Huntingdon. His contemporaries predicted then he'd be first in the cabinet, and a colleague who's known him since Lambeth days says his appointment today will be a popular one.
I think given that Geoffrey Howe was going to be moved, John's appointment will be very popular within the party. John has enormous support from all wings of the party and has won a lot of praise for the way he's done the difficult job of keeping down public spending.
John Major was appointed Chief Secretary to the Treasury in June 1987. His views on economic policy are considered as ideologically watertight as those of Mrs Thatcher. And it was his adroit handling of last autumn's public spending round that brought him good notices in both Whitehall and Westminster. But does he have the qualities to justify his precipitate rise to Foreign Secretary?
I think he's a determined person, but he's a very pleasant person. I think he's one of those people who has the aptitude to carry out quite difficult operations without infuriating a lot of people, and I think that would be a very valuable asset as Foreign Secretary. And the problem is, of course, that he has no background in foreign affairs. He will take a bit of time, clearly, to find his feet, and people will say, well, he's been sent there by the Prime Minister to do what she wants him to do.
There will be fierce scrutiny of John Major's appointment. His relative inexperience will be put against the record of his veteran predecessor, Sir Geoffrey Howe. Sir Geoffrey was known on occasions to differ with the Prime Minister. He was, for example, conspicuously more enthusiastic about Europe. So does Mr Major consider that Sir Geoffrey has been dismissed for his views?
Well, Geoffrey has been formally made Deputy Prime Minister. He's going to be Leader of the House of Commons. The Commons is about to be televised, and it needs a really heavyweight politician to lead the Commons. I think he has an extremely important role and will remain in that role, no doubt, for some time to come.
He'll be in the difficult position that, on the one hand, he will be seen rather as the Prime Minister's man in the Foreign Office. On the other hand, clearly, the Foreign Secretary is a very important member of the Cabinet in his own right and not an appendage to number 10.
Mrs Thatcher's choice has been radical and lends weight to intimations of Mr Major's greatness. Norman Tebbit once tipped John Major as a future leader of the party. He could leapfrog over more experienced cabinet colleagues on the way to number 10.
I think she's looking for younger people who may be able to take on the role of leadership and trying to give them a broader experience of government by moving them to a number of posts. And the Foreign Secretary, I think, is a key stepping stone for many potential Prime Ministers. Sir Anthony Eden, for example, and other political parties. The Foreign Secretary has often been the one before Prime Minister.
No more quiet cups of tea alone for John Major. From this evening, for the grey man of the Cabinet, life will inevitably become rather more colourful.
Well, away from the hurly-burly of Westminster politics, some strange things have been happening in the cornfields of southern England. Crop circles, mysterious rings of flattened corn, have been appearing with ever-increasing frequency this summer. The Country File decided to investigate.
The best, indeed the only way to make an accurate record of a crop circle is from above. Busty Taylor's got this off to a fine art. Over the years, he's photographed hundreds of different circles. But the first problem is finding them. Tucked away in the middle of a farmer's field, they're very easy to miss, unless, of course, you go out of your way to look. There's also a sort of grapevine that operates whenever a new circle's found, and with his private pilot's licence, it's no problem for Busty and his friend Colin Andrews to take to the air and see for themselves. There are those, however, who believe that a different form of airborne transportation is actually responsible for causing the circles.
A local farmer or landowner around here rang up and said, "What have you chaps been up to?" And I said, "What?" And he said, "My corn." And I said, "Let's have a look." Trundled over, and there are these extraordinary circles in his corn. And he was doing it light-heartedly, but quite clearly it wasn't our helicopter.
Well, why was it quite clearly not your helicopters doing it?
Well, when you see these, the corn is laid down in a spiral circle, and the edges all around the circle are absolutely untouched, absolutely sheer. Where the helicopter, the wind from the helicopter blows down and outward, and the grass or the corn would be dished out in a saucer. The helicopter produces a wind downwards, and that is not going to make an absolute sheer cut. You couldn't possibly do it, because the helicopter would have to, even if it could make it into that spiral, would have to arrive in one spot and disappear again without even moving.
But what about the effect of a stationary whirlwind? That's what Terence Meaden thinks it is.
I suggest that they are the result of airflow diverging around hills and being deflected by hillsides in such a way as to form a kind of trailing vortex system off the peak of the hill or off the top of the ridge. We have photographs of whirlwinds showing that they are composed of two components, an inner column and an outer sheath, both rotating in opposite senses. It's because of the law of conservation of angular momentum that one would expect them to rotate in opposite senses, as indeed they do.
I think Stonehenge might well have a part to play in all this, particularly with regard to this country. We noted some time ago that the dimensions of these formations were consistent with the dimensions of the circles within Stonehenge itself. Not only that, but that some of the ley lines running through and to Stonehenge also, we feel, may well have a part to play in the location of these things.
And what about the UFO that Pat and Jack Collins reported seeing one night on Stockbridge Down?
As we came over the brow of the hill behind you, then...
You said to me, didn't you? Cool, look quick at that.
Yes. There was this circle with lights all around the edge and would appear to have been spokes which were also lit.
I saw this enormous big thing. It was like sort of looking at a great wheel at a fairground. It looked that size. Like Jack said, it was lit up the whole way round, and the spoke with the clear, like electric light bulb lights, and the like spokes of the wheels of a wheel, and they were all lit up as well, and it was standing up on end.
We would love to think they were UFOs, but basically we're looking for the middle ground. It's not a phenomena of any human conception. It's just halfway between being non-human and something weird.
Extraterrestrial or whatever you like.
Francis Shepherd doesn't believe a word of it.
History of this field is that my family's owned it for about 4 generations since the late 20s, and we've had a period of about 60 years without seeing any circles at all. And then in 1983, rather a shortage of news in the newspapers. And a Daily Express reporter reported seeing a circle here early one morning from the top of the hill behind you there. And I've got a view that perhaps he might have made the circle for a story, because next day there was a 3-page article in the Daily Express, which is a heck of a lot of lines in a national newspaper about crop circles.
OK, why do you think it's a hoax?
Well, because if we look into the centre over there, you'll see that that ground has been trampled down much more than on the edge, because I reckon a group of people have linked arms, walked round in a circle. The person on the edge has travelled fastest than the chap in the centre who stood on the spot. Therefore, he's stood the corn down more in the centre. You can clearly see this. Also, I reckon it was done at night time because the people didn't want to be spotted, because I'd be on their backs if they were caught. And after dark, probably a few pints of the local 6X inside them, they've lurched rather into the corn because the line is not sharp, but there's little marks where people have drunkenly swaggered out of line.
We put Francis Shepherd's theory to the test.
Right then, Matty, I'll go in first then.
Yeah, stick to the tram lines.
We enlisted the help of a young farmer's tug-of-war team. Would it be possible, we wondered, to create a crop circle without leaving any trace of human involvement? They looked surprisingly practiced as they made their way down the track left by the sprayers to the spot that we'd chosen. They were armed with nothing more than a stick and a bit of old rope.
All right, let's keep this tight. Ready?
Yep. Tight, Matt. Keep it tight. Go on, Andy.
This isn't bad. Keep it tight, Matt. Fill in behind me, fill in. Fill in, Phil. You like a footwork? Just go around.
I'm doing about 3 times the width of Phil.
And he's got size 11s on as well.
I've heard this actually, Peter.
It was roughly at this point that serious doubts crept in, and all thoughts of little green men were replaced by images of large ruddy ones.
Well, we sort of comb it, spread the wheat out on the ground, even it up, make it look as though a spaceship's
You do look as though you've done it before.
Well, yeah, that I've no
Rent
comment.
a circle.
Yeah.
Seriously, have you done it before?
Well, that would be telling. Yeah.
Trade secrets.
Yes, I wouldn't like to say. I think there'll be many farmers in Hampshire that might be knocking on our door. We identify very quickly those circles that are hoaxed, and we have seen 3 this year that have been hoaxed. The lie of the plants within the genuine phenomenon is entirely different to anything that can be hoaxed and has been hoaxed.
Have you ever been taken in?
Not as yet. Not as yet. But we don't set up to be taken in. We obviously, we are wanting to get on with the job and to break beyond this hoax nonsense. There is a genuine phenomenon here, one which now we have to get to the bottom of.
From mysteries in southern England to sporting struggles in Scotland. We go over now to the Open Golf Championship on the final day at Troon with Harry Carpenter.
Let's begin the story by looking quickly at the overnight leaderboard. If you remember, Wayne Grady of Australia was ahead by 1 stroke from the American Tom Watson, another American, Payne Stewart, 1 stroke further behind, and then a lot of people in close pursuit, most of them Americans. Now, one name is not on that board. The name of the 1986 Open champion, Greg Norman, who started the day at 5 under par. In other words, 7 strokes behind his fellow Australian leader, Wayne Grady. Well, Norman teed off just after 1 o'clock and took the course by storm. When he came to the 5th, he'd already had birdies at the first 4 holes.
...210 yards. Greenan, this one's called. And, well, he flirted with that bunker there on the right distance, but a long putt.
At the short 5th now, Greg Norman has putt, must be at least 20 yards, probably 25. This is for a 2. Surely he can't make it 5 in a row, not from that range. Oh, my goodness. Well, what is 18 off of 72? About 57 or something like that. It's a brilliant birdie. 5 in a row. Norman then at his ball, his third shot at the 6th, and this has got an awkward lie as well. I'm afraid this won't be so easy.
Well, there you are, he stopped it on that hill. It's quite a display of golf shots. It's, the slope from the side of the green there is downhill to that flag. And I suppose having the tight lie, the sand iron, a great third shot. And Greg Norman has this at the 6th hole for his 6th consecutive birdie to take him to 11 under. Never in doubt.
Another of the many American challengers, Mark Calcavecchia, achieved an outrageous 3 at the par 4 12th with this amazing piece of luck off the bank. Straight in. That took him to 11 under.
The 16th green now, and Greg Norman. Now, he has done some amazing things in his career. And, well, what a cheer there'll be if this goes in. This putt, you see the hole there, is for an eagle 3. And if he gets it, it would put him 14 under par. It's almost down the right. A good effort, but it wasn't quite on line. But that'll be a birdie. He'll go to 13 under. That was a terrific second shot. 13 under, just 2 holes left.
Norman's figures show 9 birdies, just 1 drop shot, a course record 64. When he came off the practice ground before going out this morning, he told a colleague of mine that he thought he would need to shoot a 63 if he were going to win the Open.
Now Calcavecchia's second shot to the last after that massive drive. This can only be a sort of flick with a 9 or a push with an 8 or a big smash with a wedge. But don't go too far. Handsome strokes.
This to stay in the lead in the Open on his own.
Oh, no.
Just lacked the speed to hold the line, and now we have a tie at the head of things.
The 18th, Calcavecchia for a birdie 3 to tie with Greg Norman, and right in the middle, a terrific finish for Mark Calcavecchia. Round of 68, that's the situation with Wayne Grady with 1 hole left. A 3 to win, a 4 to tie. Watson for a 3. As well. What a lot of pleasure Tom Watson has given all of us this week. But the magic record of 6 championships wasn't to be. Finishing with 11 under a 72 today. This for a 3-way tie. Well done.
So now we had a 3-way playoff, the first playoff in the Open Championship since 1975, when Tom Watson beat Jack Newton at Carnoustie over an extra day's play of 18 holes. Now this time the rules were different. They would play over 4 holes, stroke play, and the holes were the 1st, the 2nd, the 17th and the 18th.
Mark Calcavecchia, well, well, well. And he's finished with a 3. So Calcavecchia, the champion, a worthy champion, had a touch of good fortune at the 12th hole where he pitched straight into the hole when he wasn't really threatening to lead the event, but eventually tied, 3 of them tied, and he is the winner.
So, a new name on the old trophy. Calcavecchia took away a first prize of £80,000. Not that that mattered, it was the trophy that was important.
On the second day of glorious Goodwood, Zilzal, the outstanding miler in Europe, smashed the course record. We join the race in the closing stages with Peter O'Sullivan.
And it's Zilzal coming there, this unbeaten colt, very strongly now, with Chardy over on the far rail, opening verse between horses, and Pat Edery desperately looking for room now on Warning as Zilzal goes to the front from Green Line Express. Warning's not going to get there. Zilzal now going to be challenged by Mark of Distinction, who's coming there well towards the stand side, but it's Zilzal from Green Line Express and Mark of Distinction. Zilzal is going to win it in great style at the line. Zilzal is the winner. And Green Line Express is second. Mark of Distinction's in a photo with Most Welcome for third.
And now for news of the Fourth Ashes Test, here's Richie Benno.
Well, for the Old Trafford Test match, there were changes made to the England side. The Australians went in with no changes. They kept Trevor Hones as their one spinner, didn't bring in Tim May, the off spinner. England won the toss and decided to bat. They also won the toss for the ball. The Reader ball was used in this match, whereas Duke's has been used in the earlier games. We join play now with England 89 for 3. Steve Waugh is the bowler and Robin Smith is taking straight.
Couple of loose deliveries and they've both gone for 4. Robin Smith tracking that long hop from just outside the off-stump square. It's his favourite stroke. And a fine shot. He really gives it the full treatment. And he plays it short of a length, halfway down the wicket, and Smith makes no mistake at all.
Oh, that's a lovely shot. It wasn't a good ball, and it really stood up there, right in the way of that brutal square cut, which Robin Smith loves to play.
Yes, you can't afford to give Robin Smith room. You can see that 2 feet outside off stump, short of a length, absolutely perfect for the square cut, and Robin Smith didn't disappoint us.
Both targets achieved with 50 for Robin Smith, and England had the hand on it. Loss of 3 wickets. Nicely turned to the wicket for 3. Take that, Mr. Hughes. There's not much charity out there now. Robin Smith getting stuck into that short ball.
Oh, good ball. The flipper has done him. Trevor Hones has slipped the flipper through to David Gower, and that is brilliantly bowled.
Absolutely right. The man that's just told you about that knows all about flippers. And Trevor Hones letting that one come out of the bottom of his hand, skidding on to David Gower. Gower misreading the length.
Hones has done it. That is the wicket. And will both of them be able to forgive himself, is the second question to answer. Hones deceived him, brought him down the track and slipped it through his guard. Both of them couldn't resist the attempt to hit it. That's 4. Slightly overpitched in what will be the last over before tea.
Lawson to Russell.
He's given him. And Russell out. LBW to Lawson. He scored 1. And now England in real trouble at 147 for 6.
Oh, that's out. It's simply exhausted the patience of John Emery. He probably spotted a googly, but played it atrociously.
That's a good hit. Straight down the ground for 6. Picked it up very cleanly. There's a beautiful stroke. But once again off the back foot where he's been so strong all day. And 100 for Robin Smith. A standing ovation and applause from everyone on the field in the Australian side. Oh, got it. Well, only just. Lawson has clapped both hands to his head and Border is just thinking about the awful possibilities there, but Foster has gone. It was a beautiful piece of field placing and very well bowled with a slower ball from Lawson, but it was so close to getting away.
Lovely shot. First 4 of the day to Smith. And for England. And that's his 13th 4. That's a lovely shot. Hit through that. That wasn't quite a half volley. Close and given. Well forward, Fraser had a long look, so did umpire Mayer. And Lawson takes number 6 with Fraser LBW for 2 and England 252 for 9. And that's a great shot. It's on the up that got hold of it. And that's his 15th boundary.
I think England will be quite happy with 260 on the board, considering the things that have gone on.
Well, that might be out, in fact. It is. What a way to go. Caught, square cut, top edge. Caught by Holmes, and the end of a great innings, 143. And England all out for 260, and that's Merv Hughes' first wicket.
And it was undoubtedly one of the very best innings played by an England batsman in recent years in this country or overseas. A wonderful knock of 143 from Robin Smith. Lawson 6 for 72, used his head all the way through, a thinking bowler, and he did great things out there for Australia. The story of the match, England against Australia, this Fourth Cornhill Test at Old Trafford. England 260 and 264, Australia 447 and 81 for 1. Australia won the match by 9 wickets. Well, here at the ground today, there was another big story apart from Australia regaining the Ashes after 55 years. There was the announcement of an English 11 which is contracted to go to South Africa for a tour in 2 summers out there. Mike Gatting is leading the side, so those players contracted to go to South Africa, that will cause a lot of heartburning amongst the selection committee. They will have to make big changes for Trent Bridge. Already it's been announced by Ted Dexter that it's most unlikely that any of those players will be thought of for the Trent Bridge or the Oval Test matches.
And now, Horizon.